we put together the presentation together for our grotto meeting, which we did a fundraiser to raise educational funds for the grotto. So welcome, my name is Belinda Norby. I am a member of the NSS and of the Southern Arizona Grotto. And this past year, I went to Mexico on the PESH expedition, which is Proyecto Espeleologico Sistema Huautla. And so for those of you who don't know anything about Sistema Huautla, it is in the state of Oaxaca in Huautla, and it's famous for the healer Maria Sabina and the magic mushrooms there. So you may have heard about it in other related news items. But the cave system was discovered in June 6th of 1966. And at this point, it is one of the deepest caves. It's the deepest in the Americas, and it's 12th deepest in the world. And so that's at 1560 meters. So it's over 5,000 feet deep for those of us who are Americans. There are 30 entrances and 100.2 kilometers long, which is over 62 miles. So the project happens in the spring because that's outside of the rainy season. And the PESH project started in 2014, and it's been having yearly expeditions except for during COVID. They missed 1 year. It's co-led by Bill Steele, who I believe is on the Zoom meeting with us. So thanks for attending, Bill, to support me. And Tommy Shiflett, who is the cartographer. Huautla is one of the most biodiverse systems known, with 35 specimens, and 27 are possible trilobites. The system drains 2.5 meters of rainfall yearly into the Rio Santo Domingo Canyon, and there's the potential for more cave in the future. So one of the things that PESH is really proud of is the fact that scientific research is happening during all of these trips. And so to date, there's all this information about different dissertations and master's thesis and papers that have been published regarding the fabulous, anthropology, archaeology, geology, biology, and paleontology. And while we were at PESH this last year, we did get to meet one of the paleontologists that had come to collect a specimen. And then also there was some stalagmite that was taken out to do paleoclimatology research. So we're hoping to hear more about that in the future. So where is Huautla? So for our trip, we flew into Oaxaca City, which is down here. And then we took a bus up to Huautla, and then from there got a ride with some cavers. And then when we left, we took a bus over to Mexico City. So it's about 6 to 8 hours from any metropolitan area. So it's a long ride and pretty adventurous. What you see here, and it looks like these are stretched a little bit weird on this screen. So this is the cave system is mapped today. You can see it over here in black as well. This is some marketing material from Huautla. So you can see it's a hillside village. And there's the magic mushrooms. And also one of the murals is the fabulous cave as well. So here is, again, the maps. And so this one is the plan view. So you can see all the different cave entrances. And one of the caves that we worked in was up here, this Elysium and Nita Mayo. And it hopefully will connect into the others. And you can see, unfortunately, I have some Zoom stuff, so it might be a little bit weird, but up in this area, you can see how it's all really close in elevation. So the potential for it to connect is quite possible. And plus it has been dye traced to fit it all in. So that will add quite a bit of extra cave once that's connected. So for our expedition, it was 4 weeks. We went for 2. There's 39 members from around the world. There was people from England, Mexico, the US, China. So it was well represented. The system is now at 100,242 meters. I was just thinking about saying that in Spanish and it kind of made me very nervous. And so the team in 2023 only added 223 meters to the surveyed distance. However, the more important is what we did to make it so this next year will be more successful. And so the Nita Hay and Nita Ka were rigged to some of the older depth that had been surveyed in the past. So now they can be trade routes to help get further into the cave system. We did help with the rigging in Nita Ka, and that was an exciting experience for us. It was our first trip in when we got to Huautla, and it was a lot of vertical work, and I'll show you guys some pictures of that in a little bit. Also, as part of the PESH 2023 summary, we explored Cueva Elysium and Nita Mayo. Those were the ones that were not connected yet. And there's a lot of going leads that will likely connect. And so we were helping get the passage ready so that we could go further. And another thing that I actually got to participate in was relationship building with the local landowners. So I got to go to the daughter of the cave owner's house in Huautla for Cueva Elysium, and they fed us and everything. And it was really just interesting to see what is done to keep relationships going in order to keep these expeditions happening, because all of the caves are on private land. And so without the relationship building and like the understanding of what the people believe in, without that, we wouldn't be able to continue caving. So it's really important to be able to see that and to understand, you know, it's not just going down there on this expedition. Like you need to behave in a certain way while you're around these people, and you need to, you know, put on your best face. So, so next year's team is going to have a lot going for it. So we hope to hear more. I actually just declined my invitation to go this next year because I'm having some anxiety issues, but Jessica will still be going. So she'll represent Arizona for us. So for any of you guys who are interested in reading more, the November 2023 issue of the NSS News has the summary report in it, has the trip logs that were generated. So after each day, the trip leader was responsible for going in and documenting what happened that day. And if it was a multi-day trip, they would do it when they got back up to surface. So preparing for an expedition like this. So Jessica and I had never, like I'd gone on expeditions before. I had went to Belize and I went to Montana. So I had an idea about how to pack, but I didn't know how to pack for a multi-day underground expedition. And plus I didn't know a lot about vertical. Like I thought I knew vertical, but I didn't. I do now. But so we did a lot of vertical rope practice. We went to France to the International Congress, and there we got to do this amazing obstacle course that like really made us realize how much we didn't know. And when I completed that course, it was like this sense of like satisfaction that I did it. And I wanted to maintain that. So we came home from that and we set up rope treadmills, and we were like doing 300 feet at a time. And we set up a backyard ropes course, and we did a ropes course on the bridge. Like we did all this stuff so we could handle our rebelays and J hangs. And like we put in a lot of work. Every week we were on rope for months, like 4 months, from I think it was like August all the way through to April. Every week we were working. So we did knots and rigging practice. We learned how to do some of the stuff we knew, but we learned how to do double figure eights, bowlines, and a fusion knot. Those are commonly used in Huautla. So we were making sure we knew how to do the stuff that the Huautla cavers were doing. We also participated in the scroll mapping project. So both of us are sketchers. And so that has helped us get invited on different expedition. While it's not a requirement of going on an expedition, it is a skill that does take you places. In addition to all this other stuff, we had to maintain hiking and endurance. So we did backpacking, we hiked, we did Blackett's Ridge. We wanted to be, well, I wanted to make sure that I was stronger than Jessica. She's 10 years younger than me. So I had to work my butt off. And then we had to buy so much gear. So we were spending money like it was going out of style. We're like probably funded most of all the caving outfitters out there, getting brand new vertical gear because we had to take 2 sets of vertical gear with us in case we broke one. You know, we had to have basically double of everything we own. Well, we have to have that anyways now because of white nose. And so like I probably have 4 sets of gear. So this is us practicing. Most of this was, well, the stuff on the left is from France. They had a really awesome wall that mimicked a cave that we did as part of the Congress. So just to be able to go to Huautla, you need deep cave experience. And so we went on a trip at that Congress that got us down to 500 meters under the earth. So for those of you who hike in Tucson, Blackett's Ridge is about the equivalent. So except for instead of going up, you go down. So we practiced. We also wanted to make sure that we could do enough vertical without getting worn out. So we went down to Southern Arizona and frequented a mine shaft with over 300-foot vertical drop, free hang, just to make sure that our treadmill rope practice paid off, and it did. So we made it. We got to base camp. There was 2 base camps that we stayed at. The first one was Plan Carlotta. And so we were in this room with several other cavers. And so this little tiny space was our first little area that Jessica and I stayed in. And basically it was about the size of a 2-man tent. We were just squeezed in there. And so you get to hear everybody snoring, whatever, people get up and go to the bathroom, you know, you're just like bunkhousing. But it was fun. We spent some time hanging out. This here is Bill Steele. He is the main organizer of the trip. And he saw me taking the picture and he looked straight at me. At Plan Carlotta, a lot happens in the kitchen area. We had amazing food. Chef Steve was like just the best cook. And so we ate lots of Texas style Mexican food based with, you know, the Huautla ingredients. So it was really awesome. And then this is just like showing us cavers chowing down. For caving, we had a board that would say who was on a team, where they were going, and when they were expected back. So that way, if another team needed to go rescue them, they would know what was happening. And then because we would come in at odd times, we would put that we returned and what time. A lot of the trips started at noon, and I'm not a morning person and I'm not a night person. I'm a middle of the day person. And so that was kind of hard for me. We'd leave at noon and still be caving at like 10 p.m. and not get back till camp until, I can't remember the one that we did. I think we got back to camp at like 2 a.m. or something, our very first trip. But that was a really, you know, you're testing your endurance. You're seeing if you can keep going after you're like pretty sure you're ready to just like go crawl into a cave and go to sleep. So also we had to prepare for our cave camp trip. So this is me making breakfast mix. There was dinner mix and there was breakfast mix. And neither was very good, but they were supposed to be super nutritious and be able to make it so that you could last for days underground. Also, while we were there, we were responsible for doing our own laundry in the old style method of just using a washboard. So that was fun. The other base camp that we were at was called Plan Escoba. So this is up in the Elysium area. And at this, I feel like this is where like I really fell in love with Huautla. Berta, her husband owned the land, and in the house that we were, or the buildings that we were in. So this was our like kind of kitchen area. You can see people hanging out in the background. She had made some embroidery things that she was selling, so I made sure to buy some for my family. There was dogs. There was 3 dogs that just like every day entertained us. We had to get water out of a cistern. All the water for these 2 villages was rainwater. And so you have to be very conservation minded when it comes to water use. So that was, an experience just to make sure that you didn't waste any water. There's Jessica sitting there with bruises. It looks like she had an abusive boyfriend, but she didn't. She just went caving in Huautla. Also, that might have been her boyfriend. This was our Randy turkey that was in the little village, and he loved everybody and he would just shake his tail. It was so awesome. There's our kitchen in Plan Carlotta. So there we also had a cook, but those meals were a lot more basic. And also one night somebody went in there and there was like a rat crawling on the food. Yeah, it's an experience. We had way more room there, so this was our living area while we weren't in cave. And we got to hear the La Grieta blues. La Grieta is one of the entrances and cave passages in Huautla. And so it's a pretty famous song now for Huautla cavers. And at nights, just like in Arizona, beautiful sunsets. And this was the view from just like right outside our buildings that we were staying in. Corn, and then just mountains as far as you could see. Mazatec culture every day. Berta would make tortillas. We could hear her grinding at like really early times in the morning. And then she actually showed us how to make the tortillas. Ours did not look that good. The dogs had brought down a small deer. And so the family in Plan Carlotta butchered it because, like they don't have a lot. So having meat and stuff was valuable for them. And then most of the villages in the area had a basketball court. So we saw lots of basketball being played. Okay, our first trip was in Nidaka. So we hiked from camp. It was probably like half-hour hike, nothing hard, just walking mainly on a road. And then we had taken Cokes to leave at the entrance because we had to walk through a field. And if we had encountered the workers, we were going to give them, a treat. And we didn't, so we left them and we ended up joining them at the end of our trip. But here's Jessica, and she is learning how to bolt. And so she got to do rigging in Nidaka, and it was really awesome watching her work. I was mainly passing things to her and just being part of the team, making sure that we had enough people down there so that we could safely get out if needed. At the end, we enjoyed our Cokes, but we did put down a lot of rope. And so that way, later in that week, they were going to establish a cave camp. That cave camp probably is not as luxurious as the one I stayed in because it's going to be a very drippy cave camp. From that same base camp, we did do a couple of other trips. One was just to go hiking and looking for caves. There was a farmer who had found some pits on his land that he wanted to check out. And so we went down like a couple hundred feet into one, and it was on one of the cavers' birthdays, so we were calling it Birthday Cave, but I think it's been renamed. I don't remember what it's called now. But it was like a really interesting experience being the first cavers down into that. It hasn't yet started to be mapped. It doesn't look like it connects into the main system, so don't know like how much time they're going to spend on that. So then we transferred cave camps. It was a couple of hours drive from Plan Carlotta to Elysium. It's about 10 kilometers long, discovered in 2019, and they started mapping it in 2022. It has been dye traced to Sistema Huautla, so this is, you know, pretty good potential for, you know, to make the whole system bigger. It is famed for a very decorated section, but we didn't get to go there. You know, you're on a project. You don't get to be tourists. So while there was an amazingly beautiful place, we didn't get to go there. But that's okay, because you're part of a project. But what we did see was pretty freaking beautiful. So going into Camp Berta, it was a lot of rappelling, hiking, climbing. So we would go rappel down, and then we would ascend up, and then we would rappel down, and then we would send up. And so it was a lot of work just getting to camp. We didn't have to carry in our sleep systems, except for a sheet set. And time check. What time am I supposed to be done? 8 minutes. Okay. And so like our bags were still heavy, like we were carrying different gear. Other groups had already been down there. So like some extra rope was already there. The drill was already there. But we did have to bring some group gear in. There was like beautiful formations. These ones are really dark. And there, of course, is the amazing Jessica. And so this was our cave camp experience. So we had our kitchen. This is on our team for this trip was Pete Shiflett, the cartographer. And so he took this picture of us enjoying cave camp. And there's an example of there was neo airs and sleeping bags already there. The cave temperature was 50 degrees, so it was pretty nice. And this, like these camp spots were almost perfectly flat. So like this is supposed to be, it's rumored to be one of the best cave camping experiences you can have. Down in the very bottom of this huge room was a flowing water passage. So it sounded like we were sleeping next to a creek. So these are pictures from Elysium. You can see actually that one I think that's my butt. Me trying to squeeze into this passage. There's Jessica rappelling. There's Jessica squeezing. So we worked on this passage a couple of days, and then another day that we worked on another passage that also kept going, where we were surveying. So as for surveying, I think I only did like 4 or 5 stations. So I felt like, you know, I didn't do that much, but we did all these other things, which is strange because like when I've surveyed here, it's like you're just surveying, you know, you're not having to go and like rig caves and carry, you know, equipment so that you can stay 3 days in a cave. You know, it's a very different experience than what I'm used to doing in Arizona. There's just more cave. And then I got sick. So did I mention rats running across food? You would go out caving for the day, and the groups that were not caving would make their dinner, say at like 6:30, like normal people. And then that food would sit there until you would get back. And you might like warm it up, whatever, but most likely I didn't get sick from eating tacos on the street in the market. I got sick from eating food that Americans had made. And yeah, I got to go in this lovely toilet. It had no running water. Instead, you had a little stick to poke your poop down. And this is the bucket for the toilet paper. So I spent some time in there. So this is the last week, all of the attendees that were here. So obviously this is not all the people that I mentioned before. Typically on these trips, you're assigned to go for 2 weeks. And so there was 2 weeks of people that had already left before this picture was taken. This trip coming up is going to be longer. So I think that with the 2-week trips, there's actually going to be overlap. So I think that's going to be an amazing experience for everybody. So you want to go on an expedition. As you've heard of all these things that I said you need to buy, those are just, you need all your normal stuff plus personal camp gear, extra layers, depending on the temperature in the cave. And then we also got Darren drums. For those canyoneers, it's the canyoneering kegs to put our things in to keep them dry. You'll want to build out your resume, put your certifications on there. Make sure you've taken wilderness first aid or greater. Take cave rescue classes. I've done both the OCR, the SPAR, and level 1 classes. Learn how to survey. Get lots of experience vertical caving, especially deep cave. Learn some special skills. Do you know how to rig? Do you know how to bolt? And with deep cave, do you know how to do relays and use things other than racks? Learn how to use a bobbin. Another thing you want to do is network. So you need to meet people. So back in 2012, that's when I got this idea. I wanted to go to Huautla. A SAG member, Stephen Eganor, went and brought back amazing photos. And I was like, oh, I want to go there someday. And so during COVID, or no, before COVID, I went to the Mexican Cave Congress, and I actually got to meet Bill Steele. And during COVID, I was like, Bill, will you do a presentation for our grotto? So I just kind of kept in touch with him. And then I think I sent a resume in once, and he's like, do you have deep cave experience? And I'm like, no, I don't. And so the year that we went to France, I finally sent that resume. You send it on August 1st. Everybody write that down if you want to go. I sent my resume in on August 1st, and on August 2nd, I was going to be doing deep caving. So I put that in my thing, I'm going to be doing this. And he was like, good luck, have fun. I think he said, keep a smile on your face the whole time. So I did, and came back out to, I think it was only 2 days later, Jessica and I were in the Alps hiking. And I'm like, did you get an email? And she's like, no. What are you talking about? I'm like, check your email. And so we're like looking, and we're like, we used to go to Huautla. And so all of our hard work had paid off. So I recommend definitely travel, go to these conventions in other places, not just the US. They are definitely worth it. 2025 is in Brazil. Budget, it's not cheap to go on an expedition. So start saving and ask your grotto for help. So SAG didn't have a lot, but they gave us each $100. So thank you, SAG, for helping us out. All right, any questions? David?
Did any other grottos help you out?
Did any other grottos help us out?
Yes. Yes.
No?
Yes.
No,
So
No.
GI did not help you.
no, only SAG. We each received
Right.
$100. I think that would probably be for NCRC training
Oh.
for Anastasia. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
Hannah?
Hannah.
repeat the question.
Yeah, so were there any local landowners that were cavers? No, none of the local landowners that were cavers were cavers. We did have locals there that were helping us with like translating and things like that. And one of the cavers had married a local person and he went caving, but yeah, we did have the paleontologist was from Mexico. And so that was nice to see what his research was in his own home
One
country.
more question.
I want to, and I might be wrong, Bill would be better at answering this, but I think Anna
What was
is
the
helping
question?
with it because she's
The question I asked was, who's collecting the oral traditions in the Mazatec?
yeah. I know
Montserrat
Anna-
Peralta Perez,
Oh, thank you, Bill.
Monse, who is from Huautla and is trilingual. She speaks Spanish, English, and Mazateco. And not only that, but she's from a family that's been there for many generations. And interestingly enough, they think there's 200,000 people that speak Mazateco in the mountain range, but only 20 can read and write it. And she's learned to do that.
I didn't get the opportunity to meet her last year, so she.
Woman that was at the Western Regional a couple of years ago, Bill?
Bill, was she the woman that was at the Western Regional a couple of years ago?